Hi, folks. It's Donna Martin here from the Good Life Approach podcast, and we are back today with episode 18. But before we dive in, as always, I begin each episode inviting you to get curious about yourself, your life, and the world that we all live in. And so let's dive into episode 18. In this episode, I am speaking around 5 truths that I learned after over 15 years of nursing and how these don't just apply in healthcare to nurses, but they actually apply to everybody. So let's dive in. So, if you've been following the podcast and you've been following myself and my story and the curiosity that I invite, you maybe know a bit of my story that yes, I was a nurse for over 15 years and I've been in business now for, God, I think over 4.5. I've been through burnout multiple times. I now specialise in burnout as well as coaching, empowering people to really dive into themselves and ask a deeper question to stop surface skimming. And so today I'm going to talk about 5 truths because when I shared these in one of my posts, oh my God, it absolutely blew up and it continues to blow up, which tells me that we're all curious. We are all inviting the questions. We all want to have a look and dive deeper into an idea of a truth that we believe and actually say, oh, okay, how can I make this better? Does that person relate to me? Oh, has that happened to somebody else? I'm not here on my own. And this is what we're exploring today. So let's unpack what the first truth. And one of the first truths that I had done was, and actually really learned, was that you're absolutely replaceable in your work, regardless of what title, regardless if you're a CEO, a director, regardless if you're a business owner and run your own business, regardless if you're the top chef and bottle washer and doing everything for everyone and you're the person that keeps it running, be under no illusion that you are absolutely replaceable. If something happened to you in the morning, you would be replaced. And that was one of the biggest awarenesses for me in nursing when I was nursing, because as a nurse, I thought, oh my God, I have to do all this. And if it's not done, then you would feel guilt going on, passing things on to the next shift. And only I can do this. And these are my patients and my remit. And this is what I have to take on. But in reality, when I realized that you're just, what is it that you're constantly going for? Is it the justification? Is it the ego satisfaction of somebody saying, well done, good job, or Donna's got it, or Neil's got it, or Jeff, or Sue, or whoever, that you've got it handled, that you are the person to take care of that, to make it happen? Because for me, I know on reflecting, going from neutral, when I started asking the question and going, oh, okay, like what happens when I'm not here? The world doesn't stop. When I had burnout and went off and was on the sick for a period in my palliative care days, the ward kept running. They found a replacement. But what I really understood when I was at rock bottom, completely burnt out, had a wall, could not function, could not actually go to work, was barely eating, barely sleeping, was that you are replaceable in your work, in your role. But you are not replaceable for you. You are not replaceable in your home. You're not replaceable for the people that love you, the people that are surrounding you, the people that you are connected to on a deeper level. You're absolutely not replaceable for them. And now when I went through burnout the first time, I didn't have kids, I didn't have a partner. But I had my sister, my daddy, my siblings, my friends, lifelong friends, childhood friends that I still have today. And that was a huge understanding for me, was that, how did I get here, firstly? How did I just keep running on autopilot and spinning my wheels and thinking I have to, I have to, I have to, literally trying to trying to put one foot in front of the other to keep going with nothing. Literally, oh my God, my tank was on fumes. Like there was zero zip, nada left. And if you're listening, I invite you to think about times in your life. Now, you don't have to have gone through burnout for this, but think about times in your life, in your work, in your career, in your job title, in your business, whether you're a parent, whether you're a business owner, regardless of whatever role you're in. I invite you to ask the question, where have you been that you've been off, or you've been sick, or maybe you haven't allowed yourself to be there? Maybe you haven't hit that wall yet, or maybe you're just feeling that and you're ready to hit that wall now, and you're like, oh my God, life just, it sucks. Everything sucks. I feel horrible. I feel drained. I feel exhausted. I feel mentally and physically and emotionally just numb, or just empty, or just gone, or you're maybe in that phase of, how can I sustain this? Or maybe the reality is dropping in and you're like, oh my God, actually, this is not sustainable. I cannot keep doing this. I done it for years. I done it for over 2 years while I was going through the antisocial behaviour. I still showed up every day for a 12-hour shift. I still nursed hundreds of people on their deathbeds. And I still showed up to trauma, to pain, to impact, going home every day because I had blinkers on. I was just focused on, Donna, get up, get dressed, get food, get water to keep your body physically moving through the motions. Don't check in on your emotions. Don't check in on you, because if you do, you're going to crumble. And in the times where you can't suck up your tears, you can't pretend, then release it, then shake it off, and then keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, until that no longer worked and I couldn't keep moving. And the reality, going back to, oh my God, like I am so replaceable in whatever role I do. If my business shut tomorrow, like, would it make a difference to anybody else? Like, would your clients go and find somebody else that does what you do? Absolutely. When we drop the ego and allow ourselves to go to neutral and allow ourselves to be open and honest, to actually exploring ourselves deeper, to actually inviting in different questions and asking, is some of the things I'm doing ego led? No judgment. Are they benefiting me? Are they supporting me? Are they sustaining? Are they bringing you joy? Are they from love? Are they fueled from a loving place? If you're burnout and spinning your wheels, absolutely not. It's usually from a fear place, because we can only either be in love or fear. So that first one, that first powerful truth, I invite you to get a pen and paper and actually write that down. Write that truth down and ask yourself, is that a truth for you? Just because I'm sharing something on the podcast, these are truths for me, truths that I learned, things that landed not in my head, not in my logic, but actually in my heart. They dropped so deep into the core of my being and into the pit of my stomach. It was like, ah, ah, holy poo. That realization there was just like a mic drop of, ah. And you know what it formed for me, folks? It empowered me then to have that release, to release that baggage, that rucksack of bullshit, of ideas, of heaviness, of stones, of every burden and thing that I had put on myself unknowingly, unintentionally, through an intentional cycle, because that's where my awareness was at. And that is absolutely fine. So every time you go through this, whatever you're listening to, please don't judge yourself, because judgment is ego. It's saying something's either right or wrong. However, when you place love and neutrality and just be the observer and actually just get curious about it and say, what was I operating from? Was I unintentionally being fueled in my ego by people saying, well done, there's great praise, good job, keep going, you've got it, you're the one that always sorts everything out, you're the one. And then we feed off the praise unknowingly. And that's fine, because it's part of the human. But it's only fine to a certain point, because it's not fine and it's not going to help you when you hit a wall. It's going to keep you stuck in the judgment and in the fear to keep spinning your wheels. It's not going to support you through love. So, with that first one, I invite you to be neutral, be curious, and actually ask yourself, is what Donna's sharing, does that resonate with me as a truth? And maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. But this podcast is exactly what it is. It's simply an invitation for you to get curious about yourself, about your life, what you have created, because we are always creating intentionally or unintentionally, and about the world that we live in, the things that are showing up, the repeated patterns and behaviors, the new ideas, the new inspired things that you're moving toward. So that first truth for me was a game changer. The second truth for me was after burnout. When I qualified as a nurse in my 20s, even when I was a student nurse, burnout was just a thing. It was an actual badge of honor. It was like, oh my God, I've only peed once in 12 hours, or I've only had some crackers and a juice, or I've literally had 10 cups of coffee and nothing else today. And I done all my patients and somebody else's patients. And yeah, I've stayed here an hour extra, even though I'm getting no overtime for it. But that's me, because I'm a nurse and that's what I'm done. And if you're from a nursing profession or a doctor profession or a healthcare profession, you will absolutely get this in the healthcare system. I've worked in Australia, I've worked in Northern Ireland, I trained in Northern Ireland, I worked in Southern Ireland. So I've worked for 3 different healthcare states. I've worked in private and public. And here's what I know to be true, that badge of honor, that burnout, that, oh, I've done 100 different things today at 100 miles an hour and I haven't taken care of me, but I've still got the tick boxes done, and go me. And we wear it like that pride thing. And I remember coming in as a student nurse and going, holy, what? Are people actually doing this? Like what is this? Is just bizarre. And I remember thinking how bizarre it was at the beginning, but then when you go in and you're nursing yourself and you realize, and you're always short staffed, and you've always got more things and more things and more things. Oh, what a realization. But then when I became a business owner, I nearly burnt out again, moving to Australia, starting my business, then having the car accident, then having to let go of all these ideas of what I bought into about what people were telling me about business and how we should be, and all of that noise. I realized that badge of honor is bullshit. So I invite you to get curious about that idea. That's what it is. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. It is a freaking wake up call. If you have a heart attack and drop in the morning, your work, your job, your business, your business may shut or somebody else might take over. But wherever you're working and whatever job you're in, you will automatically, instantaneously be replaced, regardless of how high up a level you think you are. Even if you're a director of somewhere, or you're really high level in somewhere, an executive, you're on a board or whatever it is. If you shut down, if you have a heart attack, if you died in the morning or ended up in hospital, somebody would be in your hot seat in a hot moment. And it would just be, okay, what do we need from this person to tie it up and keep going? Because what's the bottom line? How do we keep going? It's not about the humanity. It's not about the person. It's just business, which is cracked in itself. For me, I found in my beliefs and my experience of over 15 years in nursing, in healthcare, even in the GP surgeries today, when you're going in, it's the same similar scenarios of people burnt out. When I hear people in minings, when I hear, oh my God, so many people in pain, a lot of people taking their own lives. Again, I've been down that scenario, and I speak from my awareness and from where I was in that experience, sharing, not telling, but sharing. Wherever you're at, if you're feeling like you're just completely overwhelmed, exhausted, depleted, please go and seek help. Please go and connect reach out to somebody, your GP or somebody to do with a specific specialist or psychologist, somebody that you can speak to about that. Because when we begin to share and when we begin to talk about things, when we begin to start calling out in all industries that burnout is not a badge of honor, when we stop using it as that, and when we highlight that our health and well-being is the core thing, that is when we can start changing those unintentional habits, that old culture, that old idea and old reframe. And we have to do this, folks, as a collective. I can do it on my own. I speak from my own experience. I went through burnout a couple of times, along with severe depression, along with a lot of other things. But that was my journey. That's what my soul is here to experience. The life, the lessons, the wisdom I've taken, why I'm sitting on this podcast today. So I invite you to ask yourself, where are you at in your experiences? How does this translate in your world? Is there something that touches your heart and actually lands in your gut there where it's like, oh my God, I feel like she's just got in my head, or what she's just shared, I really connect with, or it feels like you're talking to me, or it feels like we're going through a similar scenario. This is it, because there's over 8 billion people in the world, and we are all going through similarities in the human form, in the human life. The awakenings, when we begin awakening to be curious about our spiritual side, to be curious about the spiritual being that we are. We're not just this physical bag of bones. The more we speak about this, the more we relate to this in healthcare. It's not woo-woo, it's backed by science. The more we relate to this in businesses, the more we align at the core of who we actually are, our spiritual essence and being. When we can live from alignment, you won't have things like burnout. When you adjust your flow of life to start living intentionally your good life way, oh my God, your life changes. Infinite possibilities opens up. So that burnout is being a badge of honor. It's not, it's a wake-up call. So ask yourself, if this feels like your wake-up call, what is the right next step for you? What can you do? What support? What do you need right now? Is there somebody in particular you could reach out to in your work, in your role? Listen to yourself. Stop for a minute. Close down your eyes. Put your hand in your heart. Put another just below the rib cage there. Just allow and feel that energy. And just be silent and allow the answers to come. Allow the ideas to come. Allow all the noise to pass first, like a highway. And then allow those other ideas to come in. Allow that inner voice of your soul to actually begin coming through. This allows you to hear intuitively and feel where you're guided to go, led with your heart. So third one here, and I've written these down. If you see me looking and you're on YouTube, I've written these down because I want to make sure that we go through them. The third one that I want to speak about is that guilt and pressure. How often and how many times have you felt guilty for doing stuff? I felt guilty as a mommy. I felt guilty starting my own business. I felt guilty leaving nursing. I felt guilty as a nurse being on night shifts, missing all the soccer, missing the boys' stuff at the weekends, my husband feeling like a solo parent. I felt guilty doing night shifts, then doing day shifts, then being away for 3 12-hour shifts at a time. I felt so much guilt and so much pressure to perform. But I think I felt more pressure to perform as a business owner than what I ever done in nursing. Because after 15 years in nursing, I was confident, I was comfortable, I was easy, it was automatic, it was empathetic, it was just high skills that I had. I had no problem at all. I had a massive feeling, an overwhelming feeling of a privilege. My heart was always wide open when I was sitting with somebody on their deathbed. For me, I found that a privilege, a loving gift that I knew that I always had, a space that I could easily hold for someone and be there. And this is the thing, but as a business owner, I found it so difficult. I struggled quite a bit. I went through, spent quite a lot of money on different experts and things that just didn't feel right. Listening to people, ignoring my intuition, nearly burning out again, just spinning my wheels and going and going and going, and then ignoring some of the stuff or not trusting myself, and then getting swept up in the noise. And this is the thing, like guilt and pressure, they're not tools for success. They never have been, they never will be, because guilt and pressure are based on fear. And if we go back to the idea that you can only be in one energy at a time, you can only be in one frequency at a time, like a radio station, because remember, we are made of energy. Energy runs to and through our bodies all the time. It's how the electrical current of our heart beats. It's how the cells in the DNA reproduce. We are in a quantum field, like science has said. So if you think that you emit this frequency and you can only be in one frequency at a time, would you choose the frequency of love that is higher, that is abundant, that is joy, that is beauty, that is prosperity, that is infinite incredible possibilities? It's not yay, happy, toxic positivity. No, absolutely not. That's bullshit. But what love is that there's no judgment. You're the observer. You are happy being in the skin of your human body. You are listening intuitively and you're going where you're guided to go. And there is no failure. There is no right or wrong. It's you're intuitively in flow, moving from a place of observant love and that feeling of love. So you emit that out there. And what happens is when you're in that loving frequency of joy, of love, you cannot be in that frequency of fear, of guilt. They're heavy, they're a burden, they are judgment, they are ego, and not in a healthy way. But all they can do is spin you down that energetic spiral. And we are that attraction. So you're either attracting from love or from fear. So that pressure, they're never tools for success. They're a recipe for increased sick leave, increased sickness in the body, increased mentally and physically, and for overall poor health and well-being. That's where I was when I had the severe depression. I was severely drained, severely low, severe toxic thinking and ideas around me. I was just in that autopilot, habitual, unintentional cycle. And what I didn't know then was that just because you think something, just because you have a thought, doesn't make it so. You can actually change that thought. You can change the data, because we are just like a program. So if you're functioning on guilt and pressure all the time and it's a habit and a habit and a groundhog day, you can pattern interrupt. You can stop that and actually say, well, no, that thought does not serve me. It's bringing me results that I no longer want. So I get to choose again. So you have to choose you, because this isn't a one and done. You don't just do it and it's done. This is something that, if you think how long you've repeatedly gone over and over and over these ideas in your head, the pressure, the pressure, the pressure, it's overwhelmed. Every Monday's horrible. Every Friday's a drag. I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait to numb my pain with drink or drugs or whatever else it is. That was me out partying at the weekends or out partying on my days off, because it was just like, just get a release, just numb out, just zone out before kids. And so I invite you to ask yourself the experiences, what would you choose differently if you had a choice? If you had a magic wand that said, okay, I'm going to give you the choice to choose again. So tap that wand, and what would you choose? Would you choose to take away all that murky, irky feelings, to clear and cleanse your water, to clear and cleanse your human body, to clear and cleanse the thoughts, the ideas that you had about yourself? Would you level up your self-value, your self-worth, that inner role of confidence? Would you level up the amount of self-love, and would you choose to operate from a place of love all the time? To call in your idea of success, your idea of the good life. These are the invitations that I invite you to ask yourself, the questions I invite you to ask today, because only you know how you truly feel. Only you know the feeling within your heart. Only you know the noise going on in your head. Only you know the pain going on, or the sickness you have in the pit of your stomach. I used to feel sick and dread going into work all the time. All the time. I used to literally be drying my eyes in the car. Before I began with the reset tools, before I began setting my intention. And even then, it was a constant spaced repetition over 20 years, because I chose in a moment after my first experience of burnout that, no, I know better. There are other ways, and in my heart, I'm going to try these. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to play around, and I'm going to start doing these things. Set my intention before going to bed for a night shift. Set my intention before a day shifts. having a repeat mantra, everything goes in ease and flow. Today is a great day. Today is a great day. Today goes in ease and flow. Thank you for an incredible day. Today has absolutely flew in. Thank you for some beautiful colleagues. Thank you for some beautiful patients. Thank you for some beautiful experiences. And every day I would continue to look at myself in the mirror, even though I didn't feel like it, and just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And all those 1%, that's over 20 years worth of work and tweaking and playing and experimenting and noticing how things felt, noticing how I got through a shift, noticing how, boom, I would blink and it would literally be morning time. And I'm like, oh my God, that shift actually just flew in, or that went in ease and flow. And then you'd be looking back at your nursing notes and going, oh my God, the amount of things that I got achieved in that, but I achieved it from a place of love. I achieved it not from a fast engine running, but from a place of ease and flow. And I had some fun in my evening, and I had some fun in my experience, and I chose not to buy into full moons, and I chose not to buy into there's still 3 people to come back from surgery tonight, and the whole hoo-ha of why did they do this and where are they, and instead of removing that judgment, removing the blame, not being under the gossip, not being under any of that, but protecting yourself in that bubble and still having fun and a good experience. How much nicer would your life be if you were experiencing life that way in ease, flow, and fun, as opposed to how you're currently experiencing it? The fourth one, your health and well-being isn't a luxury. It's freaking essential. If you're not putting your health, your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, and overall holistic well-being, if you're not putting that at the forefront of your mind, if you're not making you a priority, ask yourself, this is your invitation to be the observer and be neutral. Why not? Why not? And if you are, and it's only incremental and it's not sustaining you and it's not filling your cup and you're still running, then ask yourself, what resets, what tools, what things do you need to do? Ask your heart, allow your heart to guide you, not your head. I can tell you go and get the daily reset toolbox. And that's all the logical, systematic things to do. But you have to give yourself permission in your heart to actually feel. Ask the question, am I ready to change? Am I ready to move out of this default pattern? Because some of us thrive on stress and anxiety and anger and autopilot and Groundhog Day. We think that we don't, but we actually do. Our nervous system is programmed and targeted for it. So it's always there and we feed off it. Our ego feeds off it and sends more and more and more. So I invite you to go to your heart, the source of all love, and ask yourself with your heart, not your head, would I like to change? What would I like? How would I like to experience my day, my week, my month, my year, my world? What experiences would I love to call in? Not that I need because I'm in dire straits and this is horrible, because then we attract and manifest from a fear. But what would I absolutely love, 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 love? And am I ready to give myself permission to change? When you choose you and you give yourself that permission intentionally, go and look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I ready to change? Do I give myself permission? Do I allow myself to allow everything that needs to come up and freely release without judgment, without shame, without guilt, without pressure? Do I allow things to just come as they come? And do I allow then tools to support me, to keep me going, to create new habits? Because did you know it takes a minimum of 30 days to change a habit? But on average, it's actually around 90 days to change a habit, and then repeatedly through daily consistent repetition, actually implement that into your world and embody that in who you are, to look at yourself in the mirror every day, give yourself gratitude, observe, jump back into neutrality instead of judgment. It's a practice. However, what I know to be true from this is when you give yourself permission and choose you intentionally from the intentional manifesting cycle, when you intentionally choose your thoughts, when you intentionally shift your ideas, when you intentionally shift your energy, when you intentionally choose tools that are going to support you, feel into the ones that are most supportive for you right now in your current scenario. This is where you will continue to keep moving forward. Your soul knows its role, it knows why you're here, and it's asking you to listen and pay attention. That could be through me in this podcast, it could be through a book landing on your thing, it could be through a repeated song, or a number, or a talk that you've gone to. It can be through a number of things, but you know what feels connected, what feels like synchronicity. And so the last one here, and oh my God, the biggest one is that I became aware of is burnout is not just for nurses. Yes, I went through it as a nurse, but I also went through it as a business owner. Burnout is for absolutely everybody. It doesn't discriminate on your age. It doesn't discriminate on your race. It doesn't discriminate on how much money you have in the bank or your job title or how important or any of that. It does not discriminate. It doesn't care if you are somebody that's working in a shop, if you are a major CEO of a high multi-million-dollar business, if you are a stay-at-home parent, it does not care. Burnout impacts absolutely everybody, whether you're a busy individual, busy team, busy organization. And this is why I do what I do. That empowerment, that coaching, helping you through the daily reset, through the toolbox that got me over 20 years of trauma, of pain, of impact, of going through some of the worst scenarios that I've ever been through. I know it's true for me, is that these have sustained me and helped me go. Now I invite you to ask the question, what do you need to sustain you? What judgments, what things do you need to let go of, regardless of where you are in your world, your title, your experience, your job, your business? What do you need for you now? If you'd like to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. But this is the power of you being curious. It's the power of asking yourself and inviting yourself to be curious about yourself, how you think, how you feel, how you react or respond, how you judge yourself, how you go back into autopilot. How you get curious about your life, what you've currently created. And again, go back to non-judgment. And then get curious about the things that I have said. What landed in your heart? What things are you kind of questioning in the logic or in the ego? Are you maybe not ready to let go of? You're like, oh, Donna, that's bullshit. No, that can't be right. Write it down. Ask yourself, what about that doesn't feel right for you, doesn't feel like a truth? Because my idea of truth is very different to your idea of truth. My idea of the good life is very different to your idea of the good life. My idea of success is very different to your idea of success. And this is the whole point. You have to choose you. And these are the 5 truths that I'm sharing with you because there's something in there. Ask yourself, what can you take away from that? And on that note, folks, we'll wrap up this session with that invitation. Anything that flared up for you, write it down, get curious, no judgment, be the observer. My name's Donna Martin, and always live your life intentionally. Thanks very much, folks, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.